Morning Tribe, welcome to Unity V Live Morning Motivation. We are talking about how much rest you should take between your sets, and we're answering a couple of really great questions that have come in from our Movement Mastermind online training tribe. All that and more coming up right after this. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image. All right, we're back, and we're talking about a really good topic today, and it's something that's overlooked. Loading variables and overload techniques are really, really important to use and master to elicit a stronger neurological adaptation in the body. So we're going to answer a couple of great questions that came in over the weekend from our Movement Mastermind tribe. First of all, how are you today, Rad? Oh yeah, in case we haven't met, I'm Yanni Bormeister. This is my brother Rad, and we are Unity Gym. We got Richard behind the camera, and we're the gym that teaches people how to move and nourish instead of diet and exercise. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
ready for another week. I'm pretty fired up with all the great interaction that we're having from the Movement Mastermind. It's unreal.
Yeah, how good was
very exciting.
One of the guys asked a question about sciatica or a nerve impingement pain that he had, and
I didn't even get on there
before I could even get there was like 7 good answers, and they were all good. It was all good feedback.
They were really good answers.
Yeah,
it
well
just goes
done,
to show.
tribe.
It goes to show the power of what we've worked hard to create, which is a community of people that are all working together and helping each other. So Blakely and Tom Wood, spot on with your answers, man.
Yeah.
They were really, really good.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I just read it and went, yeah, do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was really cool.
Absolutely. I was quite impressed too. So
Yep.
Good work, guys. Yeah, and it was Tom and Blakely who were chiming in there.
Yeah, it
and
was
also
Marcus
Lockie from the gym.
Yeah, Lockie
here.
as well. Yeah, Lockie, that was a really good of you chiming in. It's good sometimes when the Unity Gym members actually get in and say this as well, because you guys obviously work face to face with us and have had a lot more coaching from us. So thanks, Lockie, for
and Lockie has been working with a lady called Kate, who Rad's working with now.
A physiotherapist
who's been trained by Sarah Key, who is arguably like one of the better lower back specialists in the world. She's had an illustrious career, and she's really specialised in lower back. So he's got some great
Lockie's also
experience.
Done what very few have, which is had a really bad lower back pain and sciatica that stopped him from being able to do most everything to do with the lower body. But he still kept coming to the gym and training and working
And
with me and
persevering,
and we we worked around it. So good on you, Lockie.
Yep.
Anyway, let's dive into this. So Don Scardi, who's a new member of the Movement Mastermind, he's saying, the amount of content for $75 is excellent. Really feels like a summation of all the experience and knowledge you have gained over the years. Thanks so much for that, man. That's really nice of you to say. And it is. This package that you bought for $75 is literally 90% off what the normal price that we charge is. And if anybody's still looking at this, you've only got another 2 days to grab it. I highly recommend that you get this. You will not see a better way to jump in and try what we do than with this. So there's my shameless plug.
It's so true though, man. It's a ridiculous value.
It is, and this is what everybody that's in the group is saying this stuff. This is not like spend $75 and get 3 videos kind of a thing. So anyway, so with the additional mobility work on each session, should you use the relevant workout from the Mobility Masterclass series? Maybe I missed it in the tutorial video, but how long should you be resting between, say, B1 and B2 set? I know the idea is to stretch the muscles not being trained in that workout, but I was wondering how long for. Cheers. So I'm gonna take this one. You stretch what you need the most amount of work on, okay? So you stretch what you need the most amount of work on. So what we've done is, if you have a look, if you completely forgot the Movement Masterclass series, because that's a $299 video series that we've included for free for you. So it's awesome that you've got that. But that is really for people that are ready to specialize and really to double down on the middle splits, the pancake, and the back bridge. And we'll be updating that with front splits eventually too. So if that's you, if that's what you want to double down on those 3 movements, then absolutely do those movements between your sets. But if you remove that from the equation, let's say you don't have the movement masterclass, and you look at just the FMS online coaching, what you've got is you've got the warm-up, and then you've got the upper body mobility, the spinal mobility, and the lower body mobility. And what that is a tutorial of all of the individual exercises that we teach people at the start of their journey. And that is the best stuff for people to get to an intermediate level with mobility and even to an advanced level. So when you look at the lower body, we're looking at single leg good mornings, diagonal stretch, active pigeon, 4-point stretch, active middle splits, pancake. These are the movements that we've used on ourselves and on our members at Unity Gym for years now and got great results with it. Why are they so good? Because they're almost all unilateral movements, which means you work in the individual leg at each time. They do progressive loaded mobility, which means that the muscles are under tension while they're being stretched, so it thickens the muscle fibers as well as lengthening them. It doesn't just lengthen them like stretching. And there's nothing that's too advanced in there that uses any kind of weighted mobility or anything like that, so it's pretty easy to do between your sets. That said, if you're already at a intermediate level of flexibility and you really want to get better at the pancake or the middle splits or the back bridge, then absolutely do what you've said in your question. Absolutely. And I'll just finish off what I want to say before I give Yanni a chance here. As far as how long do you go for, when I do my workouts, I am sweating and I have a faster heart rate and I'm a little bit out of breath because of how quickly I go from mobility to strength. So I will be dripping with sweat and I'll be kind of going, like I'm not out of breath. It's not like I can't train, but I have a raised and elevated heart rate. And the reason why is because I'll finish a set of strength training and I'll immediately go into my mobility and I'll stretch for, I do basically however long is the required amount of time. So what I recommend with any of those lower body mobility exercises that I just described is that you do 10 reps on one leg and then you'll go back and do another set of the antagonist strength training. Then you'll do 10 reps on the other leg and then you'll do the agonist strength training. If you don't know what that means, it's the opposing movement, okay? So, and you'll do that until you've done your 3 sets of that mobility movement, and then you'll move on to the next mobility movement. You might still be doing the same 2 strength training movements when you move on to the next mobility movement. And then, basically you want to work on your greatest weaknesses first. So if you've got ridiculously tight hamstrings, I'd be working on the hamstrings 4 days a week. And if you don't have ridiculously tight hamstrings, but you want to get better at them, something needs to be worked on at least twice a week to improve. So if you work on it twice a week, it will improve. But if you really need the work, you want to do it 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that?
Agreed. Yes.
With rest times?
Yeah, that's the thing. You didn't really answer the rest time.
Well, I'm going to let you talk about that. So talk about what the optimal rest time is for hypertrophy and the optimal rest time is for strength training.
Rest is one of the variables, and one of the overload variables that we use to elicit a result. Now, when you want to develop strength, the general rule is that you have to have a minimum of 90 seconds rest between your sets if maximal strength is the goal, the primary goal.
3 minutes?
90 seconds is like minimum if you're doing a agonist-antagonist workout.
Yeah,
but if you're not,
group,
if you're doing the same muscle group, let's say hypothetically there was no A2 exercise or the A2 exercise was for the same muscle group again, then you'd need 3 minutes. You'd need a minimum of 3 minutes between there, up to 5. And I've seen people take up to 7 minutes. I personally think once you go over 5 minutes, you start to lose the nervous system starts to switch off. And cool down. For hypertrophy, very different. Hypertrophy, 45 to 60 seconds is really quite standard. And it's interesting that the less rest, the more testosterone is produced from the body as a result, and the more rest, usually the less testosterone is produced in the body during that workout. And it really comes down to what training periodization period we're on. If we're in hypertrophy, then usually we want to just crank through it and train with a lot of intent to get through as much volume as humanly possible. There's a caveat to that. You can't have too little rest because then you're going to have way too much accumulative fatigue throughout the workout. but it also really depends on your training age, and this is why it's really hard for Rad and I to program for rest in the programs. And it's brought to my attention, I don't know whether we're putting rest intervals in the program. Have we put rest for 60 seconds or rest for 90 seconds? I haven't looked at the program template for a little while.
To be honest, I can't remember.
Yeah, it's brought this to my attention, and if there is no rest prescribed there, then that's something we'll change, because we should be giving a benchmark.
I'm actually updating. There's a couple of little tweaks that we've done to the program template that'll get updated today.
Yeah. So thank you very much for asking the question. Was it Don?
Don. Yeah.
Yep. Now, hopefully I've answered the question. 45 to 60 seconds for muscle hypertrophy. If you've got a very, very good training age and you're lifting a lot more weight, like you're really lifting...
This is all if you've got an antagonist movement as well, right?
Yes, that's right.
So
which all of our programs do.
All of them do, yeah.
Yeah. And then you can take it up to 90 seconds for muscle hypertrophy if you're lifting quite heavy, like you're really, really up there. Usually with training age increase, you need to increase the rest, and that's not the way you would think.
No.
You would think as your training age increases, you become more and more conditioned and resilient, and you can bring the rest interval down. But actually, as your training age increases and your experience level increases, you start to lift more and more weight, and you're lifting above your 70% 1RM maximal lift much more regularly, and therefore you need generally to stimulate the muscle and the nervous system adequately to continue making gains like you did in your initial programs. You need more rest. So the guys who I've trained with who are the strongest usually have the longest rest. And it's just because the body adapts and you start to lift a lot heavier weight. I hope that answers the question. And we will start to prescribe rest interval as a benchmark for everybody going forward if we're not already, because that's a mistake. We should have done that. Anyway, have you got anything else to add?
Yeah, well...
Yeah, one last thing I'll finish on, because... You know, I grew up training in Fitness First gyms. For those of you in America, I don't think you have Fitness First. It's kind of like LA Fitness or something like that. It's a big chain franchise gym. Not even a franchise. It's owned by one conglomerate company. But they're very, very well-equipped, big gyms, millions and millions of dollars on their fit-out. And, you know, what I noticed training in that environment, it's a commercial gym. People don't train with intent. People come in to train, and it was kind of almost more like a socializing behavior. You know,
sure.
You chatted a lot during your rest intervals. You usually train with a buddy or something like that. Whereas if you go and walk into, I'll say an example that everyone will know by now, a CrossFit gym. You train in a CrossFit gym, and one thing that I freaking love about CrossFit is the level of intensity that they bring to their workout every single time. Like, it's very social and all that, but once the fucking timer starts and the workout starts and you're in a WOD, it is go, mate, and you are just absolutely going. We call that at Unity Gym training with intent. Like, you'd be pissed off if someone tried to discuss something with you about their weekend in the middle of a workout at a CrossFit gym. It's very much like that here at Unity Gym too. Sure, there's a little bit of banter on the gym floor, but what Rad said about just smashing between weights and mobility, there is a lot to get done. And when you're training for movement mastery and you have real solid goals, you're not just trying to alter body composition a little bit, you're really training to unlock the next progression in your movement, you're really, really committed to that, and you're training with intent, and you just go for it. There is no time to ask. And we used to have a joke, like, you do not spend a workout as time to catch up with your mates. That's not what it's about. Catch up afterwards when you're, getting over how intense the workout was.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
100%. I mean, I say to people all the time, because I don't want to scare people off, and a lot of people do get scared off by that level of intensity. And I don't like the word intensity, level of intent. Because I don't feel that I train with a high intensity. But what I say is it has to be, it depends on what your goals are. And if your goals are that you just want to be better than you are, and you want to be doing a program that's sort of covering all bases and is a generalist program and, makes you stronger, makes you more flexible, then do it however however it suits you and however it makes you feel good about it. But if you want to be able to achieve skills, if you're saying, I want to be able to do the splits one day, I want to be able to do a handstand, I want to be able to do a pull-up, a muscle-up, whatever it is, then, man, you got to bring it. You've got to be smart about your training. You cannot just turn up and go through the motions. And you certainly cannot allow somebody else or any kind of external influence to affect your training session. Like, once you go into the gym and your training gear's on and you sit down to do that first set, don't let anybody else interrupt that. Like, you are going for however long you've got. And for Yanni and me, when we train, our training sessions take 2.5 hours at least to get done. Like, and I'm working for that 2.5 hours. Like, we don't chat, you know.
When we interviewed Ben Pekolsky, the ex-professional bodybuilder, he an Olympia athlete, he said it really well. He said, you know, in his gym in Tampa, Florida, the MI40 gym, he has this whole ethos that when they walk in the door of the gym, they become the person that they're trying to become with their goals. That's it. The mindset shifts. The moment you step into the gym, like if you've set yourself a goal to be able to do calisthenics, or you've set yourself a goal to do a sub 55-minute half marathon, or whatever the goal is, to compete in the CrossFit Games, whatever your goals are, you got to become the person who competes in the CrossFit Games, or you got to become the person who runs sub 55s. You have to be that person, and make it a mindset shift every time you step onto the gym floor. Every single time you walk into that gym floor, you've got your kit on, boom, you shift into that person. You're not here to socialize, you are here to work. That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm always struggling to get as much in my workout as I would like to do. And I find that the big battle for me is to get it all in before I lose motivation and I start to become really fatigued, you know?
Yep.
So you really want to just be, like, for me, it's strength, then mobility, then strength, then mobility, then strength, then mobility. And I'm just going back and forth. And, like, so much so that, like, when Yanni and I and Cal and Richard are training, if someone isn't ready for something that we all do, we start the timer and they have to run and they kind of miss out, because otherwise, you know, if we allow the one person who, because there's always somebody that's not feeling great on one day, and if you allow that person to dictate the pace of the workout, the whole workout goes to shit. So instead, let the person that's feeling really good for the day dictate the pace of the workout, and everybody else has to raise up to that level.
Yeah.
And you feed off that.
It's something at Unity Gym that's quite unique, and it's hard for new people. Like, we don't purposefully do it, but we make it a little bit hard for new people because, as Rad said, the workout pace is dictated by the seniors and the guys that are there to really make it happen. And often that's a bit overwhelming for new people. They come in and they're like, Jesus, this is like full on, you know. But as Rad said, if we set the pace by the beginner, then we'd have no senior students. They would just go, oh, this is crap. You know, and the beginners, once we get things started, we then go and give them as much, you know, support as they need. But people are only beginners for a very short amount of time at Unity Gym, you know, a couple of weeks, a month in, and because we train 5-6 days a week, people are really, really changing their bodies, their behaviors, their habits, their rituals, and their mindset.
Yep. So we've got two more questions. One is still from Don. He's added to his question, and he said, another question is, I work a 4-on, 4-off shift, with 4 being 12-hour days. Although I feel like I could train on all of these days, it might be too taxing on my body, stress levels. How detrimental would it be to add an extra rest day so that only 2 of my work days are also training days? So 6 on, 2 off in regards to training. And then Josiah, I hope I'm saying your name right, Josiah Grigsby, is saying the same thing. So the first thing I'll say is, everybody's training split looks different, and it has to fit your life. Like we've got what we recommend, and we've worked our whole training split around a 7-day week and around what works for us and what works for most of our clients.
We've also designed our entire lifestyle around our training.
Yeah, that's
like, we've worked for the last 15 years to create a business that supports us so that we can train 3 hours a day.
Yeah, that's right. So your training has to fit your lifestyle, and your lifestyle has to fit your training. And if you feel like Josiah was jumping in saying that he feels like his central nervous system takes a dump on his 3rd or 4th day, if that's the case, there's a couple of things. Number one is, firstly, are you training too hard on every day? Are you pushing yourself so hard that you are being that fatigued? Because we recommend that you ramp load, which means that in the fifth week of the cycle, which is the fourth work week, is when you peak, and then we deload on the sixth week. And if you do that, meaning that the week 1 is your prep week where you do strength testing, week 2, 3, and 4 you're ramping up the intensity, and then in week 5 you peak. If you do that, that will be mitigated a little bit, and you will be very sore in week 5, but then you'll get to week 6 and you deload and you only do 40 or 50% of your volume, and it's almost like a rest week. But if that's not the case, if you are pacing yourself and you're still feeling really fatigued, then absolutely. If you want to take 2 rest days back to back and do a 6 on 2 off split, and that works for you, then do it.
Yeah, it's a hard. I've never worked shift work like that, but I used to. When I first started as a PT, I worked as a security guard, as a bouncer, as a door bouncer for nightclubs, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and then PT Monday to Friday during the day. Now, I was working nights 3 days a week until usually in between 3 and 5 in the morning, and then getting a bit of sleep during the day. And I managed to do that for about 6 years before I burnt out. And I was still training a lot. I was boxing very competitively. I think that it takes a lot for the human body to actually burn out. And I think you guys could probably, you have a bit of experience being in the military. You know, the amount that they push you in the military to train your mind to go, okay, it's actually okay to push myself that hard. They do that very well in the military. I've heard, I haven't been there myself, but I've seen guys in the special forces go way beyond what the average person would be able to do. And there's not that much different in their bodies, but there's a lot different happening in their mind. Your body will adapt to almost anything, and it's about just setting the mindset and deciding what you want. You are absolutely going to have to manage and mitigate your fatigue. Like what Rad said, that may mean that you can't train to the level of intensity that someone who's not doing shift work does, but it will absolutely be more beneficial for you to train as consistently and frequently as that person. The answer is certainly not to drop workouts so that you can train at a ridiculous intensity the times that you're at work, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely not let my frequency suffer to increase the intensity.
Yeah,
no way.
Frequency and consistency will always overrule intensity in workouts in the long term. Short term, maybe not. Short term, 3 to 6 months, you may see a better result training really high intensity. But at the end of the year, the dude who's more consistent and more frequent will overtake the dude that was more intense every day of the week.
Yeah.
And that's what we try and encourage people to do. Look at it long term.
And we're speaking from real experience with that. We did not do that well for decades. Yanni and me were the guys that trained with a massive amount of intensity, and you'd flog yourself and then you'd get injured and you couldn't train properly for a week or two, or you'd just be wrecked and you just couldn't train for a couple of days. And we've got friends that didn't do that and were just more consistent and frequent with their training, and 10 or 15 years later they achieved more than us. They did. So we've tried it that way, and now we've come around to doing it the way that we teach now, which is frequency and consistency is king, and we're getting better results hands down, and we feel better all the time. You just feel better. You don't.
To add to that, who am I talking to?
We're talking
Josiah.
to
Josiah.
Don. No, we're talking to Don.
Oh, Don. Okay, Don and Josiah. Guys, chronic fatigue is real. Chronic fatigue is real, and what happened to me in 2006 was that I got so sick from doing that. 2008, sorry, I got so sick from working nights and days and then training at a very high intensity that I ended up in hospital, and it was a catalyst for a demise in my health that I'm still suffering from 12 years later. I'm going through some pretty intense treatment right now for parasites in my gut that I picked up way back then, 12 years ago. And I believe that they were able to overrun my digestive system at that point after some travel in Southeast Asia because of how suppressed my immune system was. So there is an element here that you've got to take with a grain of salt. Like, we're going to say keep training, but ultimately you have to be the end judge. You have to listen to your body. And Rad and I both have not worked shift work, 12 on, 12 off. So it's hard. But these boys were infantry soldiers in the military where for weeks on end you worked constantly, right? Like, you were out bush, or you were on patrol, or, Richard served overseas in Afghanistan. I'm sure they've had experiences pushing their bodies like that, and they survived. So if you've got any other questions about that, I'm sure you can reach out on a personal level. Otherwise, let's just manage and mitigate your fatigue by using intensity of your training as a good variable.
Yeah. So Joe Chi, thanks for the comment, man. Couldn't agree more. You absolutely do need to get that intensity up, or the intent of training, if you want to be able to achieve your goals. So thanks for chiming in there. And that's all we've got time for today. So
awesome.
we'll have to pick it up tomorrow. We're getting some amazing questions and interaction on the Movement Mastermind now. So thanks to all involved.
Shameless plug, guys. You've got until tomorrow midnight.
No, that's
PST.
That's PST, which actually makes it another 2 days. Really.
2 days.
About 2 days. So Tuesday, 11:59 p.m. PST, and that deal is going to be gone. It will not be extended under any circumstances. So this is your last.
Last time
chance
we
to
did
get
a
it.
flash sale on Cyber Monday, we had so many people emailing us saying, "Hey, I wanted to get this deal, but I was just a little bit too late." We are going to say no this time around.
We did say no last time. Look, the truth is that, our words mean rubbish if we say we're doing this and then we just extend it for everyone, and it dishonors the people that did jump on and buy the deal. It's just not fair, and it's not a good way to do business. So we will be strict on this. If you miss it, you'll miss it. And you can still jump on, of course. You can still join the FMS online coaching, but you'll miss this amazing deal where you get the mobility masterclass included, and a couple of other things as well. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow for another awesome discussion. Not
Hope
sure
you're
what
all
will be
motivated and charged up.
And
get your questions in, and we'll see you tomorrow. Sorry, I just totally interrupted you.
Yeah, you did, but it's all good. I'm used to it. See you later, everyone.
See you guys. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.